Good morning, Wabash. Speaking today at Pioneer Chapel will be Brady Largent and Christopher Board with their talks titled Tolerance versus Acceptance and Southpaw. Brady Largent is a mathematics major and a double minor in education studies and music. At Wabash, he has been active in a wide range of clubs and organizations, including Shout, Glee Club, T-Tones, Math Club, Dork Club, Wabash Orchestra, and Pep Band. Brady served as Shout's treasurer in 2024 and is currently serving as vice president. On campus, he has served as an SI instructor for the past 3 years, and off campus, he works at a real estate title company in downtown Crawfordsville. This past summer, he studied mathematics education abroad in Budapest, pursuing practical teaching experience. After graduation, Brady plans to attend graduate school to start a career in public education. Chris Board is a junior from Indianapolis, Indiana, pursuing a major in music and minors in chemistry and education. At Wabash, he is a brother of Fiji, a captain of the volleyball team, the co-chair of the DEI committee, treasurer of Shout, and a member of the Sphinx Club. He is a part of the Wabash Chamber Orchestra and works as an assistant volleyball coach at Crawfordsville High School. Chris hopes to pursue collegiate coaching opportunities in the future. Let's give a warm welcome to Brady and Chris.
Good morning, Wabash. As most chapel talks begin, I want to extend some thank yous to those who made it possible for me to stand here today. Firstly, I want to thank David Leal and members of Shout who invited me to speak today, and the Sphinx Club for hosting Chris and me. And thank you to those of many people who helped me with this speech, including Dr. Abels, Bennett Strain, and Jen Crum. And as we all know, it takes a village, so I'd like to thank those who have supported me to get here. My roommate Dalton Kuhn, members and advisors of Shout, including Chris Amadon, Professor Winters-Vogel, Dr. Benedicts, and Dr. Campos. Those who have attended my SI sessions over the years, Mom, Dad, my loving family, and everyone else who has led me to where I am today. When I was a young kid, it wasn't difficult to see that I was different. That is, different from the other boys that I was supposed to be like. At recess, I didn't play soccer with the boys. I played house with the girls. I didn't care about being good at sports, even though I was in them. And maybe one of the most different things about me when I was really little was that I liked pink. And I told this to my mom's friend during a visit to Tullahoma, Tennessee, who then said, "Twyla," my mom, "he's gonna be gay when he grows up." And well, standing here many years later, she wasn't wrong. And I was thankful to my friends while growing up. Through elementary school, I always felt a sense of belonging and friendship. And being a kid is figuring out who you are, and that's fun. Junior high and high school, however, I knew I was going down a different path than everyone else. I knew I liked the other boys. What I didn't know was how people around me would react to such information. I didn't feel safe telling anyone, nor even myself. I was scared for anyone to find out, and so I hid. I played the role. I did what was expected and culturally right in this context. I dated girls. And when I got to Wabash, I felt a major shift in my attitude towards myself. I felt an urge to tell the world who I was, and I wanted out of the closet I meticulously made. And once I got out of a relationship, I had a few months of deep reflection and accepted that I was gay. Soon after, I came out to my friends. Some months passed and I told my family. Some more time passed and I got involved with Shout. And once I joined Shout, I felt like I was screaming from the mountaintops that I was living my authentic self. Shout gave me the tools to feel safe in my own sexuality, and I found community and found affirmation. I felt like I was Brady for the first time in my life, and this newfound sense of self was encouraging. I started doing better in classes and got to know many more people. Weeks later, I felt as though I was warned about my confidence in my newfound self. As I was embracing my confidence, I was soon reminded that not everyone would embrace me in return. I saw the news and pictures that there had been vandalism at Wabash. During the cover night, a group of people defaced a fraternity. In bright purple and yellow, someone had spray painted the F slur, among other terrible things, on the outside of Delt. And it felt like a smack to the face, and it hurt. Someone or some group was announcing that queer students are not welcome here. And this was the first time I had witnessed a hateful act towards the LGBTQIA+ community while being an out gay man. After this hate crime, which is exactly what it was, I had a mix of negative emotions. I felt scared to go forward telling people that I was gay. And I quickly recalled how important code switching is for survival. I was concerned, like many, for Liam Grennan, class of 24, who was an out gay man and brother of Delt. There were a lot of emotions and fear for many out and closeted queer students and allies. And to soothe concerns that the queer community was feeling, we were met with silence. We knew nothing of administrative steps. No one had come forward with information regarding this vandalism. And although we have more information of the crime now, much of what happened is still unknown to the broader Wabash community. This story brings me to why I'm here and what I want you to walk away with today. I want to talk about what it means to be tolerant and what it means to be acceptant. What does tolerance look like at Wabash? And why is acceptance needed, maybe now more than ever? I claim still that what happened during the events after the vandalism is an example of tolerance. Silence and no transparency are ingredients for tolerance and mistrust. When talking with other members of Shout after the event at Delt, they were concerned about the safety of themselves and others. Most importantly, they were scared that at a college that preaches belonging, they didn't belong. I felt as though we were deemed separate from the Wabash community and tolerated if we were quiet. This story also, however, is not an isolated incident. Quoting from The Bachelor, published on March 15, 2024, quote, "The incident is the latest and infrequent but seemingly constant stream of acts of homophobia across campus. On February 4, 2023, a similar incident occurred at the Delt House with a slur spray painted on their basketball court outside their house," end quote. This is what tolerance breeds. When we tolerate and not accept a minoritized group, we inevitably create silence, mistrust, and something that Dr. Molly Abels in the music department famously identifies as othering, a term coined by Edward Said. Othering, loosely defined, is the process of separating a group of people from the majority, and therefore deeming them as something other than part of the community. Othering gives way to two things. One, it implies a power structure. Those with power and a platform, such as select churches, politicians, or comedians, can control how queer people are viewed. This often creates and supports dangerous stereotypes and presents the LGBTQIA+ community as something to be mocked or feared. Two, it supports the constructs of heteronormativity and false binaries. In other words, it supports the idea that being a cisgender heterosexual is the right path and should be followed without question. It is this process of othering and persistent acts at Wabash that leads me to believe that there exists a culture of bigotry and a group of people who will act against queer people and against a sense of belonging for all students. And if Wabash is to have this sense of belonging that we desire, Wabash students need to walk the talk. Wabash students need to accept all who call this beautiful campus home. One example of what it means to accept the queer community at Wabash happened on March 19, 2024. Shout staged a silent protest in the time leading up to a faculty meeting. It was a moment where members of Shout organized to express concern about the silence, non-transparency, and response of Wabash after the hate crime, and demand that things change. As Shout's treasurer at the time, I was worried if anyone would show up. I was worried it was going to be a few people pleading for something unattainable. However, when I arrived at the silent protest after class, I was surprised, with members of the Sphinx Club standing there helping us out. I was relieved that other people were there to stand with us and back us up when we needed it. Members of the Wabash community stood with us to send a message. We want more. We want acceptance. This was a powerful moment for me and many others, as this was a sign for many people that they accepted Shout and supported its message. This acceptance is what we protested for and what we wish Wabash to be, a place where people belong. And for a short time, there were no more incidents on campus, and I began to feel that sense of belonging again. And I'm not saying that there wasn't anyone on campus experiencing bigotry or rejection, but there were no major acts against the queer community that were as obvious as what happened at Delt until October. And as we do every year, even this week, Shout celebrates LGBTQIA+ History Month with many events, including putting an assortment of flags on display on the mall. It's something that has been a source of anger for some students who post their illegitimate concerns on Yik Yak. And for years, this has been a Shout tradition, and for years, we have seen frustration from students on Yik Yak about being around flags. For some, being around a pride flag is bothersome and or aggravating. This frustration, however, comes as a side effect of tolerance. Last October, however, a group of students decided to act on this anger and pose another announcement to campus that queer people are not accepted at Wabash. They did this by taking out all the pride flags on the mall and threw them in the dumpsters behind Beta and Teak. Another warning, another slap in the face, as though nothing had changed. Another way of demonstrating unacceptance by members of the Wabash community. This event is the most public message of bigotry during my time here at Wabash. I was upset, like many, and scared for upcoming Shout events. And I would like to share an account from an anonymous user on Yik Yak from that day. They said, quote, "As a queer student, I've never felt less safe on my own campus. I don't think many of you mean harm, but I feel so alone and unwanted because of all the hate our pride flags received this past week." End quote. And hopefully this conveys the message that there is real harm to hateful actions and that we should be better. However, the moments and days after the flags were taken up, I saw Wabash become something better. Members of staff and faculty donated what flags they had, whatever was in their office or department. And for a time, we only had around 10 pride flags on the mall until new ones arrived. Although it wasn't much, seeing something standing was meaningful to queer students. We also saw the most direct response from Wabash administration. Former Dean Redding stated, quote, "The flags were removed by some persons who have failed to live up to the most basic expectations of the gentleman's rule and of the culture of mutual respect and belonging that makes Wabash distinctive. This was an act of cowardice and immaturity, unworthy of anyone who claims to be part of Wabash," end quote. He further states to the perpetrators, quote, "You should know that the members of our LGBTQ+ community and their allies are not going anywhere. You, however, are welcome to find a different college community to be a part of. Or you could use this moment to reflect on your biases, work on your weaknesses, and learn to extend to others the same courtesy and respect that you would want for yourself," end quote. And these words from Professor Redding really hit home for me. For me, it was the administration saying that queer students are accepted here and belong here. After this email went out and ordered new flags, after this After Shout ordered new flags and announced that we would plant them on the mall with the Wabash community, when they arrived, I was alleviated to see that so many people came out to plant the pride flags with us, just like we did again earlier this week. With the collective work of students, staff, and faculty, we planted all the flags and lit up the mall once more. And by means of acceptance and support, Wabash walked the talk of fighting for belonging. So, as I wrap up my speech and welcome Chris on, I want to challenge everybody to make someone feel accepted, heard, and welcomed. I may not be the best writer at Wabash, but I hope this message carries. I want you to walk away with the mindset that we must fight for the belonging, just like the Sphinx Club did when they joined Shout at the silent protest, just like Dean Redding did when he emailed the entire Wabash community, and just like those staff and faculty members who donated their flags to put on the mall. We must support our Wabash community and understand that acceptance is a crucial part of our gentleman's rule. I challenge you to walk up to someone today and tell them that Wabash is a better place with you in it. It doesn't matter what the differences between you might be. You may disagree with their lifestyle. You may disagree with the choices they make. You may even be on different ends of the political spectrum. We at Wabash are better than the differences that may separate us. Here, we can talk more and we can listen more. Every day is an opportunity to do something that works towards acceptance. I encourage everyone to embrace someone today. Do something small to let them know that they are important in your life. Whether that means having dinner with them or getting out the dusty board games to have a little fun. Today marks a unique opportunity to take steps toward acceptance. Engage in conversations. Meet someone new. Go talk to people who have different beliefs than you and learn how to accept them. Acceptance is the Wabash way. And acceptance is the key to a feeling of importance and belonging. Thank you.
Good morning, Wabash. I'd first like to start out by thanking my brothers in the Sphinx Club for giving not only myself, but all of Shout the opportunity to give this chapel talk every October. I'm proud to be a part of an organization who gives diverse perspectives the platform they deserve. I'd also like to thank my brothers over at Fiji for giving me a second home and people I will be friends with forever. Also, a special mention to everyone in Shout who works so hard to give a safe space to queer voices on campus. No one has been more welcoming than all of you lovely people. I'd also be remiss if I didn't thank some of my biggest mentors during my time here at Wabash. So to Allison Manuel, our Associate Athletic Director, for not only being someone I can rant to all the time, but also showing me how to persevere in tough situations and how to be unapologetically myself. And to Professor Michael Abbott, my advisor, for showing me my place in Wabash, who, if it weren't for him, I would never have had the courage to give this talk. Finally, I have one more special thank you, and that goes out to Brody Rucker, but I'll touch on that later. I'd actually like to begin with a confession. There's been a lot of speculation, whispering, talk behind closed doors. I'm tired of it, so I'm gonna come clean. The rumors are true. I'm left-handed. Now, before you cast me to the depths of hell with all of my fellow goofy-footed demon spawn, let me try to persuade you to see left-handed people in a different light. The original connotation of left-handed people being evil came from the Middle Ages when the devil himself was actually depicted as being left-handed. The reverse dexterity was then associated with all things evil spirits and witchcraft, causing a sort of ostracization for the left-handed population. And it doesn't help that the word sinister, often associated with evil things, comes from the Latin word meaning on the left side or left-handed. Even ancient Greek philosophers such as Plato and Aristotle said that left-handedness was a result of poor mothering or physical inferiority. But I'm going to discount that point because according to many sources, Aristotle was left-handed. Many historical artworks depict objects being held or used by the right hand due to the way people felt about left-handed people. Certain terms have arisen over time for left-handed people, such as Southpaw, originally meant to signify a left-handed baseball pitcher because they faced a different way when on the mound. Other words include Gallic-handers, left-handers, scrammies, which is an Australian word for someone with a withered hand, chicky paws, no idea, and cuddy-whifters, which is just so obviously British to me. One historian even calls the left-handed community as a people without history. Now, National Left-Handed Day has regrettably already passed this year on August 13th, but because we're in October, we can turn our sights towards LGBTQ+ History Month as our focus instead. Turns out there's actually a lot of similarities between the two communities. It's funny. For starters, it was common for religious communities to deem left-handed individuals as possessed by the devil. Unfortunately, the queer community faces a present-day religious persecution through things like marriage rights. Origins of dexterity and sexual orientation are often attributed to genetics and/or the upbringing of the individual. In a similar way to how the word sinister, just originally meant to signify the left side of the body, was twisted to mean evil, the word gay just originally meant happy or joyful. But now, sometimes, it drives fear or hatred into people's hearts, despite the original meaning. A look into some population surveys reveals the number of left-handed people has tripled from 3.5% to around 12% from 1900 to present day. But the percentage of queer individuals has also tripled from 3.1% to 9.4%, but it took only 13 years from 2012 to now. It's ironic that left-handed discrimination largely continued into the 20th century, but then slowly died out. Because for queer history, there were laws in the late 1700s and early 1800s that actually decriminalized same-sex activity, which then saw the beginning of the historical discrimination against the queer community. Left-handed people used to be forced to work with their right hands instead of their left to change their handedness. Similarly, queer people would often be forced to quell their sexuality in order to obey the law or social norms. By now, I hope the comparison I'm making is becoming obvious, but if it's not, I'll hammer it home a little bit more. In a modern society, you would be hard-pressed to find an employer, a religious figurehead, or a governmental leader who is discriminating based on dexterity. The closest thing I've experienced to left-handed discrimination was when I told Aiden Mason I was left-handed, and he replied with, "I am so sorry." Right-handed people do not receive better health benefits or better jobs than left-handed people. They are not denied services or rights because of the handedness they were born with. On the other hand, you absolutely can find modern examples of queer individuals being denied their right to marriage or the ability to have a custom wedding cake because of something out of their control. Old practices that people used to force lefties to switch their handedness to remove so-called evil impurities, are still used on queer youth to remove their evil, which is just their natural inclination to love. Societal ideas such as those are the reasons we don't need resources to help left-handed individuals and their mental health. But they're also the reason we need special suicide hotlines for the queer community that even our own government has deemed unnecessary. Apparently, the small sum of money it costs to keep that hotline running is more important than the safety of queer people. Additionally, a church right here in Indiana called for all LGBTQ+ individuals to either receive the death penalty or to take their own lives. Unless I've missed the headlines, I haven't seen anything like that for left-handed people. So, if there are so many similarities between the left-handed and queer communities, why does one face discrimination but the other does not? Both groups were considered to be religiously evil in some way, have received negatively connotated words for their communities, had people attempt to change their dexterity or sexual orientation, and were discriminated against based on something out of their control. It can even be applied to our campus here at Wabash. For scientific purposes, I told 10 people that I was left-handed over the course of the previous 3 weeks. The responses varied. I got several, yeah, I know. A couple, okay. One, I'm so sorry. And one enthusiastic, add that to the list, that makes you so much cooler. Thank you, Professor Abels, you get it. Thank you. But I'm still on very good speaking terms with all of those individuals, as none of them believed I was being possessed by Satan in a given moment. However, if a closeted queer individual were to do the same thing, it is very possible they face discrimination from the people they once called friends. If things like queer individuals trying to get into parties and being denied based on sexuality, and flags on the mall being taken down and trashed are the large-scale instances we see, what about all the slurs and violence that happens behind closed doors? Why, when there are so many similarities between dexterity and sexual orientation, do we see such large instances of homophobia in our society, but nothing against handedness? You would never go out of your way to distance yourself from a lefty or stop being friends with them once they told you. My goal is not to change your politics, but rather show you that your words affect people far more than you know. And here is where I think the story of Brody Rucker fits in. This past spring semester, Brody was in my room along with David Leal, Javian Montgomery, and Luis Rivera until about 2:30 in the morning. He spent the night asking us questions about the queer community, ranging all the way from what was it like to grow up queer, or what was it like to be queer at Wabash. Now granted, his final question was asking us how he felt about the word zesty, as he went on to explain how drinking a seltzer versus a beer felt zesty to him. And he followed it up by taking one of our composites, but that's a different story too. But some of my hope in Wabash was truly refreshed that night. Someone who I would never have expected to do so reached out and was curious and took the time to understand the queer community and their place in our society. And truly, I did not think Brody would be the person to do so. But I am thankful to him for showing me that there are people who just want to know more. And so I encourage you all to do the same. Think about how you would never discriminate if you found out your friend was left-handed. Think about how you would respond if that friend said that they were queer instead. Be curious and ask questions. I feel like I can speak for myself and members of Shout when I say I'd be happy to stay up until 2:30 in the morning again, just to talk about it. Be the assassins that David Leal mentioned in his chapel talk last year by challenging the homophobic rhetoric, even when it might not be the cool thing to do. Encourage your fraternity brothers, fellow club members, and friends to do the same. Be the Brody Ruckers, who, when they maybe don't understand the situation, go out of their way to get to know their queer friends, or simply just make them feel more comfortable. And finally, remember that when you decided to go to school here, you agreed to one singular rule. And in my opinion, it is not very gentlemanly to make your fellow Wabash brothers feel like they don't belong. I am blessed to have people who make me feel safe being who I am. I have a loving family, great roommates, and an incredible class of Ryan brothers who restored my confidence in my identity. Join me in making sure everyone on this campus can be a part of that brotherhood that I've experienced. The members of Shout decided to go here to experience the exact same brotherhood as you. We just have to choose to bring them into our spaces. So yes, I'm a Southpaw and I'm proud. Go ahead and call me a cutty whifter if you really have to. Because I truly believe that together we can make the active choice, regardless of our handedness or sexual orientation, to make Wabash a place where all of its brothers belong. Thank you.
Just a few final announcements. Tomorrow, the Malcolm X Institute will be hosting its annual Fall Fest. There will be great food and even a pumpkin carving contest with great prizes. On Saturday, our football team is facing OWU. Thank you all for attending. Now will you please rise and join me in singing Old Wabash. From the hills